Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Thanks for jumping in. We are live now. And like we do every Friday, 2 o'clock Eastern time, Megan and I are doing a live to discuss mortgage franchise. And our primary client has been real estate companies that want to open their own mortgage brokerage. We've also have a number of clients that are in the mortgage space already and want to go off on their own, create their own thing, create a saleable asset, create their own company. So I know, Megan, our topic today is increasing revenue within the mortgage or within the real estate brokerage space. And you've always got some great stories around this because you and your husband own a real estate company and you guys have a mortgage company, and the two complement each other in a lot of ways very well.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to rewind a little bit. I'll continue to share some stories because the model that we've built has really been built out of all these experiences that a lot of times when we have experiences in life, you don't realize at the time the value that you're getting when you're in the moment. And, like every one of us who are in real estate and mortgage, that wasn't what I got trained to do in school. I went to be an accountant. And my husband and his family were selling real estate at a local real estate company. And I was not enjoying doing accounting. And they asked me to jump over to mortgage, which I had no idea what that was. I was 23, 24. And I did jump over and did all different pieces, ended up originating. But this specific mortgage brokerage was opened years ago. Was opened by someone who their main business was a real estate brokerage. And this real estate broker married a woman who knew the title and mortgage industry. So they opened mortgage and they opened title. And so they created, long before I think even a lot of people now have, they created what's called the one-stop shop. I didn't even realize that's what, I was
That's
in.
what it was called.
I didn't realize it. And I also didn't realize how valuable it was because, the person I worked for, they didn't talk about it a lot, right? Like it was kind of like tight-lipped. But I do remember them, when we'd be at company events, them saying, look, like the title company or the mortgage company helps provide things that the real estate company does. And like I'd hear these things, and they had a fantastic capture rate that they were getting. And I did not realize like about all of this until my family started their own real estate brokerage. And then I ended up starting, 5, 6, 7 years later, I went and started a mortgage brokerage. And we all know when we're in this industry, any of these, that we're working in it, right? Like we're on the hamster wheel of doing mortgages or selling houses, which is great. It's exciting when you first start doing it. You can make really good money. You can build this, I call it this intrapreneurship, where you can build a business within a business. But when we own these two companies, I started thinking back and I'm like, gosh, I know there's something special about this, but I don't really know how to do it. And then I tried to find people to help me, and there was no one to help us. And we ended up just winging it. And we opened our first ancillary business, which was a title company. And, it's been such a fantastic thing to do. And it's just a small local title company that goes, that our business is referred to. But what's happened is I've realized how hard it is for real estate brokers or mortgage loan officers to start these companies and to run them, or to have the right people running them, which is why people end up in joint ventures where maybe they'd be better off owning it themselves. And it's why we created the model we did, because I'm like, how can small business owners in their local communities open up these other businesses that will bring them significant additional income and revenue that will help their business as a whole? And how can we do it in a way that they can have full control to be able to benefit not just themselves, but the people in there? Like, I wish I could have benefited my team that was supporting these other businesses, but couldn't because of how it was set up. So we made sure when we set up this franchise model, okay, you don't need a partner because you have all the support now on the back end. You can own it 100%. You can open up a mortgage brokerage and own it in your local community if you own a real estate company. Because if you work with loan officers on the retail side, Brian, how many retail loan officers or bank loan officers or even loan officers who work at a brokerage, how many of them know how to open up a brokerage?
Honestly, they don't. And I know a number of top producers that are my friends, just that people I've known and met over the years. And, whenever the subject comes up of starting your own mortgage company, like you're producing at a high level, they really don't understand just how much more profit there is available if they started their own company. And immediately when it comes up, they go to, well, I don't know where to start, or I'm afraid, or, that's just too much risk for me at this point in life. And they just don't even know where to begin. Like until recently, there has not been a playbook. Like you've said dozens of times, there just hasn't been a playbook.
Yep. And then even, okay, now there's a playbook, right? Which is what we're trying to share. Mm-hmm. But it's so hard when you're building this business. I know from doing it to like pause and stop making the money you're making to create a playbook for other people. And so, I think that's one of the main reasons there hasn't been a definitive playbook or a system, because if you're a loan officer or if you're a real estate broker or any industry professional looking at adding something like mortgage, if you go talk to someone, even who does know how, like other mortgage broker owners, right? Like, are you going to get the information you need? Mm-hmm. No, and not right. It's self-preservation. I think all of us know that.
Yeah. Why would they share their livelihood, right? I mean, there's no incentive for an owner. It's a selfish way to think of it, but
everyone does it, right? Yeah. And I think for us, like that's when the turning point came, because we wrote a course for loan officers when I realized so many of them were like, well, I don't know how to do it. And I still remember sitting there talking to these two guys who were talking to Andre and I about coming over. And I'm like, how much do you close? And, they said like 25 million. I'm like, why would you join us? Like, which is probably the craziest thing for somebody to say, but I'm like, just start your own brokerage. And they had owned a brokerage like 8 years ago. And they're like, I wouldn't even know where to start. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, really? And so that's kind of how it started. And now, our companies, my personal companies, are pieced together differently. I wish I had this model when I did it. And it's the model we've created, we went and searched for in other industries, so that, right, in insurance, we're going to be opening an insurance company. And we looked for a model that was just like ours, because it makes the whole experience of starting this business so much easier than trying to DIY it or just piece it together, right? So, I mean, that's why growing your real estate brokerage, which I believe you have the power, you're getting those clients first. You're referring them to all these services. They need all these products. There's all different ways that you can support and grow your business, especially right now with everything that's going on. It is the next best step, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And, one thing that I'm talking to a lot of people about, and it really resonates when I'm talking to real estate boutique company owners or real estate broker owners, is that you and your agents are generating the leads, right? You're generating the business. And then the first thing they do is refer that out to an outside company. And the revenue on that mortgage that eventually funds goes out with that referral. So why not keep that in-house, keep the revenue in-house? And we talk a lot about increasing revenue, increasing profit, increasing the value of your company, all very real things. But just like we talked about in the call right before this one, Megan, it's not just about the revenue increase, because it's all the things you can do with that revenue to invest back in your agents, which is a retention play, to invest back in your time, right? I think a lot of us in mortgage and in real estate find ourselves working more just to sustain our income, or working harder just to sustain our income and or keep the boat afloat, right? So we can take that revenue, invest, and save ourselves some time and buy back opportunities to spend time with our family and friends and actually take a break once in a while.
Yep. And that's exactly what it did for us. Was once the additional businesses were up and running, it allowed my husband and I mean, neither one of us are producers anymore, right? Like, we've been able to set up, our goal now is helping other people in the industry and being open about it, which comes at a big cost. I mean, I'm just being honest, right? Like,
Yeah.
Because I love producing and I produced at a high level and I made great money doing that. It's given us the ability to build out these models, because I see the big companies doing it. I see the big companies doing the things that all of us who are little small business owners in our local communities, because it's so powerful when you open a small business in your local community, because now you hire, your team assistant is hired locally. Your marketing people usually are local. If you do in-house processing, it's local. Like, you spend money decorating your office. Like, it really does do something in your community too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I find it interesting to go back to your story that you really started your career in a one-stop shop scenario. And now you've created the model to show other people, and you've lived it too. You've lived the model, and you are showing other people how to create that one-stop shop experience. And what I like about this is it's not just good for the broker owner. This is good for the client too. There was a Housing Wire article not too long ago that talks about how the vast majority of clients prefer one-stop shop anyway. Like, we're all busy, and to try to manage all of those connections and go here for your house, go over here, talk to this person for the mortgage, go over here to talk to the insurance. Like, they prefer to keep it in-house anyway because it's easier. The other benefit is the communication. The lines of communication are consistent when it's all in one house. It's one-stop shop. So if you would,
Correct.
Share your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, I mean, so our businesses, like me, my husband, and my personal businesses, when I was originating as a team working with them, it was really smooth, streamlined, because you get used to working with those people. And the first company I worked for, same thing, like, it was all tied together. And customers do like it. They, typically what happens is, and this is why, once again, I wanted to get mortgage into the market, because I would say, if you're watching this and you're a real estate agent, broker, team leader, like, you probably aren't even thinking about adding mortgage because you haven't been able to, because there just hasn't been an option. So a lot of brokers skip over that and just add title, let's say. Well, when you work with a client, you're first referring mortgage. Mortgage then is talking to the client. Who are you using for insurance? Who are you using for title? Oh, you're not using anyone? Let me refer you to someone. If you don't have someone, and I'd always go ask my agents, it's so naturally fit. And why write mortgages first? And clients usually, they want to be taken care of. They really do. I mean, come on, like, think about when you go, even like where you take your car, like where you buy your car, like, you go back there to get service, right? Or a lot of them add on detail services now. Like, it's just easier.
It's easier, and it's more cost effective too, right? Like, this easy doesn't have to come at the cost of the customer's interest rate or their cost of goods. It's actually the opposite, right? Because in essence, you look at this one-stop shop, you only need one HR person, you only need one accounting system, you only need, like, there's redundancies here that within
Correct.
each company are handled with one person or one team, or so it's actually can be a cost savings the way we're doing this.
Absolutely, it's a cost savings, and it just is so natural. And so that would be my biggest piece of advice, is like, and I think why I shifted into doing this and why you joined and are doing this with us now, like, we have something that is truly helping other businesses. And that, to me, that's what is I always loved about doing mortgages or selling homes. Like, and so to help other business owners be able to do something in their business in a smooth, easy, efficient way that gives them time back. Like, I just can't think of anything else that's better to sell than that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So first of all, I want to say to anybody that's watching this live, feel free to drop your comments, your questions in the chat here. It's anonymous, right? You can post this all anonymously. If you'd rather not do it here, feel free to DM me. You can find me anywhere on social media. Send me a message. I'm happy to do a personal consultation about how this can affect you and your business personally. We can run multiple scenarios, but what do you think are some of the key things that people need to really consider if they're even going to consider something like this, right? So I know, and let me rephrase that question a little bit, because basically every company we've talked to, every real estate company knows they need to do something like this to increase their mortgage revenue.
Yep.
But they're a little bit, I'd say, apprehensive. I've always said we're not selling cars, like we're selling a business. So there's this sort of process that people need to go through to build trust and to understand that we are here in their best interest. And what should their thought process, what should they be considering as they're going through this to help get over that? It's really just a mental hump.
Yeah, I would say the things that come up the most, because it's just natural to have things come up, right? Yeah. Because we're wired that way. I would say number one, you most likely, if you're a successful real estate business team, you have some type of arrangement or relationship, and so you don't want to not consider that if it's a loan officer or company, but in a lot of cases, like especially if it's a loan officer, you can include them in this model, right? These are all business decisions, right? And so that's actually an ideal situation for us when you have a trusted loan officer who embarks on this with you. So have them be part of the conversation. If you don't have someone, then that's what we do is we start helping. I mean, we make introductions because there's just as many loan officers that would love to grow their business by partnering with a real estate company. I said, we're going to start speed dating at some point here. I promise if we get enough people who keep reaching out, we're going to do speed dating once a quarter. That's one thing is current relationships. Yes. Not just current relationship, but current setup. Maybe you're like, I get a couple $1,000 from an MSA or a sublease. So yeah, it's good. I don't want to lose that. No guarantees in anything in life, but if you have a successful MSA or a partnership that your company team is referring business to, you will at a minimum 2 to 3 exit. If not a lot more. So the returns when you own the business and the opportunities you'll give to that in-house loan officer, your agents, it will increase. And then the third thing is time. That's the other thing that, right, people say a lot, like, I don't have time, or something comes up and they're maybe bringing, certain recruits on, or, they're expanding their office or like whatever. Right. And I get that. I own multiple businesses. My head is swiveling in 5 directions every day. That's why we built the model we did, because this isn't just a franchise model, which means you're buying into a business that is set up with everything you need, all the training, all the support. There's also an aspect to it that we haven't talked about on these lives, and maybe we can do that in one of the next few weeks. It's called Mortgage Broker Concierge. And that was because when we first started talking to real estate brokers, they're like, yes, I want to do this, but I don't know if I want to hire someone now before it's open to get it ready to like set the business up. I don't know if I want to hire someone until I'm closing enough loans to, manage the day-to-day operations. And so we went back to the drawing board and created what's called Collab Concierge, which is a done for you outsourcing mortgage broker operations. The best way for me to describe it is we have created pretty much a JV model where you own 100% of the company. So there was a lot of thought went into this.
Yes, absolutely. And I know you've been working on this for a couple years, right? So that's the whole key is, people are doing this now, but are they doing it correctly? Are they doing it in a way that benefits the customer, the real estate company, and the mortgage company? Are they keeping it compliant and above board? And you and the attorneys have laid this all out. So not only is it a benefit to all parties involved, but it's done correctly to lower the risk and keep yourself out of trouble long term.
Correct. And if you try to go out and find these things separately, that's why it took so long. Yeah. I didn't think you could own multiple businesses. Like probably 7 years ago, someone asked me about, buying shares in a title. I'm like, we can't own a title company because nobody, like, you'd hear 5 different answers. Well, we went on a search and we literally went through probably 10 attorneys to find, and we have about 3 to 4 that are our attorneys that we rely on, who one specializes in RESPA, one does compensation agreements, one does the ABA, which is the affiliated business disclosures. One of them does contracts. Like, we've got all of those to where the people who join us, they get these templates, but then they also have right away the people that they need to do it correctly. Yes. And I think one of the big mind blocks on this whole thing is, I had somebody last week said, well, they went and talked to their loan officer that they've known for 15 years. Mm-hmm. And that loan officer said, well, this is not compliant. It's risky. You're get yourself in trouble. But think about it. I said, well, just curious, what company does this person work for? And I won't say it here, but it was one of the big box retail companies. And this loan officer said, well, our attorney says it's illegal, it's risky, but think about, of course, that attorney's job is to protect the margins, protect the business. Of course, they're going to say that it's risky and it's a bad idea because they're protecting their own interests. So my challenge to anybody considering this, if you're out looking at advice, is consider the what's the word I'm looking for? Consider the motivations of the motivations of the person you're asking about this is what's in it for them by doing or not doing this. Correct. Because the bigger companies, the bigger you get, the more you start leaning toward being a lender. You're right. You can't do it that way. That's why there is a right way to do it. There's the right model. There's the right setup. There's the right contracts. Yeah. I was one of those people who said you couldn't do it 6 or 7 years ago. And we just had to figure out the right way to do it. And so now there is a right way, and it's very doable. It's a very affordable model to jump into. You already have the business. It is absolutely insane. Like, don't need a single other customer. And that's a key point too, I think, is that it's very affordable, right? I mean, you can do this for less money, a lot less money than what it would cost you to open up a Subway sub shop, right? And traditionally, this has been, the larger companies have done this for years and years and decades, right? It's not just reserved for these large companies that do joint ventures. It's affordable. The boutiques are doing it now. So there's real opportunity here, as long as you can plug into a platform that's going to save you the time and the effort of actually building out the company. And that's what Collab's created. No, I think that's a great topic for next Friday, or when I'm going to add it in there, is to kind of talk a little bit about RESPA. Yep. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you, Megan. We are going to post this. So anybody can watch the recording on YouTube or LinkedIn, any other social media channels. And we look forward to having you join us next time if you want to learn more as we progress. Sounds good. All right. We'll see everyone next Friday. Thanks, everybody.